Welcome to our podcast On the Ground Up, where we interview startup founders exploring their journeys, their successes, challenges, and lessons learned. We hope you be inspired in discovering what it takes to build a thriving startup. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, and here with us today we have Liz Georgie, CEO of Suna. Liz, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, a little bit about Liz. She's a two-time media technology founder and Emmy Award winner. She currently is the co-founder and CEO of Suna, where they are building the only all-in-one platform for e-commerce brands to make, manage, and measure their creative. You got a lot going on there, and I like what you're creating because I know a lot of e-commerce companies that are most likely using your product, but we'll kind of dive into it as we go here. Before we do that, though, Liz, where are you joining from today?
I live in Denver, Colorado, beautiful Rocky Mountain state here.
I love it. Are you originally from there?
I'm not. I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in Minnesota. My journey to Colorado, you can blame my husband. He grew up in Colorado. So I like to say that I'm married into being a native.
I like that. It's a great place to be and great things to do there. So that's really cool. In fact, a vibrant technology area for startups. And I'm sure you've experienced a lot of that there too.
Yes.
In terms of you having grown up in Minnesota, what was your upbringing like that kind of maybe planted the seeds to be an entrepreneur someday?
My upbringing was a really kind of idyllic one now that I look back on it. I grew up in northern Minnesota. My family lived near the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, which is one of the national parks in this fine nation. That it's a massive sequence of hundreds of miles of chained lakes between the US and the Canadian border that folks go on canoe expeditions on. And my family owned a canoe expedition outfitter. We took people on expeditions into the Boundary Waters, many days of portaging their canoes, camping, seeing the stars, Aurora Borealis, the Milky Way, and the like, and having life-changing outdoor experiences. But as a little girl at the time, I always like to say I was a shop kid, which just basically meant when you were a tourist coming to town, I was the funny little kid behind the counter that greeted you, and I was a funny little kid that said goodbye when you walked out the door. And it was a really special experience because when you grow up in a family business like that, you learn firsthand just how incredibly important business can be in terms of setting up a family economically, but also contributing to a community. In a small community like the one I grew up in, our family business was something that was well known in the community. We hired people, we took people on vacation. We had many people who maybe had recommended us to a friend or family member who was coming to town. These small businesses, they form the backbone of so many small communities. And I just earned such a deep respect for business and business owners through that process. Naturally, I also want to be a little bit of a rebel. So I didn't go to school for business. I went to school for television broadcasting, but eventually found my way back to it after a few years once I realized, my God, why would I ever, deny this part of myself?
Yeah, that's great. It's fascinating. I hear a lot of founders that have models that they kind of follow. Typically, it's the parents that have a company or a startup or something that kind of leads them down that path. And as a founder today, and if you think back to why you're doing it, what is that you really like about being an entrepreneur? What do you get out of being an entrepreneur?
There's so much value to being able to share something you really care about with others. I like to say to people, we all wake up every day and we all have to go make a living. And you can go make a living doing something that you don't care about, or you can go make a living doing something you do care about. And there's something really wonderful about being able to wake up every day and work on something you do care about. And I really watched that with my family. We so valued the outdoors. We so appreciated and respected the outdoors. Sharing that with others was a gift. It wasn't a job. It was a gift. It was something that allowed us to really feel fulfilled and like there was a purpose to getting up every day. And I certainly think today, as I look at my job now, the scale of what I'm trying to build at Suna is significantly different and the financial resources are significantly different. But at the core of it, I'm a creative at heart and I love making creativity feel easy. I love that aha moment when you're working with a client and their vision comes to life. The way that art can actually be such an important expression of what our businesses do or offer to the world. those things still really mean something to me after all these years. And so I think that same ethos of just doing something that I really believe in has been a through line throughout my entire career.
That's really cool to hear that. You've built a great company. You've raised $53 million. You have over 100 employees, but you also are a winner of an Emmy. Walk us through kind of the beginnings of your career in whether it was in entertainment or production. Where did you fit there? And then what was the progression from that to getting into this line of work?
It's one of those gifts of being kind of following your whims, I think, as a young person, this story, because initially I went to journalism school, undergraduate for broadcast journalism, because I really wanted to be Barbara Walters. I thought that she was so cool. I remember growing up and thinking, oh my gosh, this is the only woman on television who gets to talk to presidents and professional athletes and all these important individuals. And so I really admired Barbara Walters. And that was honestly the whole justification for my college pursuit. But
Nice.
what I discovered when I got to college was that I just love the technical and the creative process just as much as the reporting process. And in fact, I ended up loving it more. And so my early career, I spent a lot of time, on set and editing television, editing 22-minute segments, 3-minute news segments, those sorts of things. And I had the experience of being a freelancer, which I think is so instructive to how I think about technology companies today. The gig economy in 2005 was not a concept. It was just you were a 1099 worker who was going from project to project. And I was really used to that. And it shaped for me a kind of hustle that I think is really instructive to how I think about my job today. I don't take my job for granted. I don't take the business for granted. And it really comes back to, having to earn every single project that I worked on early on in my career. But the Emmy story is a unique one because it's the perfect example of, I had been working on some projects with PBS. PBS had a digital studios arm that was producing content for the internet. And in 2009, it was the first year that the Emmy Awards were considering online content and extras content. So, the things that used to be on DVDs where you get some bonus material for category consideration. And it was one of those examples of right place, right time, but also being willing to innovate in a category that others weren't innovating in. I had taken a gig actually making some content, behind the scenes content for a show that was on PBS called The Science of Superheroes. And that behind the scenes content was distributed online, distributed on bonus materials, and was nominated for an award because there was honestly probably not that much competition at the time, but it was an incredibly innovative concept. And so that program ended up winning, and that bonus material ended up winning. And it was honestly such an instructive experience for me because it speaks to a couple things. One, be willing to try new things. Just because something is new or different doesn't mean that it can't be totally transformative to your career, as it was in my case. And two, you never know what is going to be the thing that breaks through for you in your career. I think a lot of people think that they're like masters of the universe. I got to tell you, when I was editing that, 20 minutes of bonus content, I was not thinking this is going to be the thing that changes my career. I just was doing the best work I could do. And I think trying to show up every day, do the best work you can do, and then have faith that eventually someone else will see that that best work is worth something. That's the moment that your career can evolve and shift.
Yeah, that's great. It kind of led you down a path into eventually where you're at now. But prior to starting Suna, you had another company that got acquired. Most
Mm-hmm.
people try and build products or companies that get acquired. And for those that achieve that, it's a great success and doesn't always pan out maybe how you want to, but it's a really good stepping stone to your next opportunity. For
Mm-hmm.
you, what was that experience like? And what did you apply from that experience to now your new startup, which might not be new to some, but for you, what's been applied that's been very insightful?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great question to explore because, my first company was a bootstrap business. It was a company where I worked really hard to save. It's kind of funny to think about now. I saved $10,000 and I thought to myself, okay, if I had $10,000, I can buy kind of the minimum viable editing computer that I need to start my own production company. And so, didn't really overthink it much more than that. And then started talking to folks about, would you be interested? The initial germ of the idea was I wanted to help take ad agencies, 30-second, 60-second television spots, and turn them into internet-ready ads, because we were increasingly seeing, people post ads on Facebook, people posting ads on YouTube, posting on apps. And this was a new idea in 2013. Now it's ubiquitous, but at the time it was a brand new concept. And so I had that germ of an idea, and I know VC was going to give me money for that. No bank was going to give me money for that. And so I had to save the money and prove the concept out. Well, fast forward 6 years later, I had a really healthy, multi-million-dollar business that had a small team of 15 people. And the truth of the matter is, running a business that you own 100% of, you also own 100% of the risk of that business. When you looked at our credit cards, they were underwritten by my home. When you looked at, our line of credit, it was always written to my credit score. It's very hard with the bootstrap business to get the financial instruments you need to really grow and scale the business. And I also started getting really inspired by this idea of moving away from, large projects and large customers to smaller customers and helping more people get access to creativity. And so I started pursuing the idea of selling the company. And there's some things that you really need to understand if you want to sell a company. The first is, you don't just say to somebody, I'd like to sell my company, and then someone buys it. There is actually a process where you could hire either a banker or a business broker to work with you to prepare your business for sale. And preparing your business for sale is really just all about making sure that the business is in good financial standing, that the processes are documented, that the legal documentation is all there, that the contracts that you have with your clients are binding and that they don't disappear if someone buys your company. All that process took about 6 months to complete. And it's really instructive because it actually makes you prove to yourself that you're ready to sell.
Yeah.
You go, okay, am I willing to tough it out for these 6 months to actually sell my business? And then we ran a process where we, sought bids for purchase of the business, ultimately received a few bids and went with the offer that we felt provided the most security for our customers and honestly the best home for our employees. And it was a great dynamic, a great relationship, a great outcome for me. But it also was such an instructive experience in understanding that, acquisitions look really glamorous. But let me tell you, they are not a glamorous thing. All in, that process took almost a year to complete. It was something that, the day that I signed, it almost felt like, I had run a marathon because I spent so much time on it. And looking back on it now, I'm just so grateful to have had the experience because it really informs how I think about now running a venture-backed business, the kinds of things I need to be thinking about future-proofing the business for the long term.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear that. So, look at your current company today, Suna. What was the inspiration behind it, and what are you building?
I mean, Suna comes directly from the people in a strange kind of way. At my first business, we were working with really large brands like United Health, Wells Fargo, Facebook. And I would get emails every so often, every couple of weeks, from folks who were starting Shopify stores. And they were saying, I want to do some video ads on the web to help promote my Shopify store. Is this something you could do? And I would look at their stores and I would look at their business. I was like, I'm really sorry, but like the entry point for a project with my company is $50,000. Like, you can't afford us, I'm almost certain. And eventually there was enough of them where I had gone from a couple emails to a dozen emails to I had received almost 100 emails from folks saying, I need to create an ad for Facebook or Instagram for my store. Is this something you can help us with? And so I just became really deeply obsessed with this idea of, every single thing we buy on the internet, we are inspired to purchase because of the photos and videos that sell it, whether we're on Instagram or TikTok or on a Shopify store or Amazon. For me and for the vast majority of consumers, those visuals are the single most important decision-making factor in whether or not we purchase something. I like to joke, could you ever imagine yourself buying a pair of shoes online without looking at the pictures? Or even buying a phone case without looking at the pictures? It's so important. And so I really thought to myself, there's got to be a way to bring technology to this process, to bring an accessible price point, to make it easy for brands to do this and have it feel like any other part of the process, like setting up your email provider, setting up your shipping provider. Can we bring technology and creativity together? And my co-founder, Haley, and I, we just became deeply obsessed with that problem and decided to pursue that exact question. And that's still what we do today. We really make it easy for brands to start creating their visuals online by making it easy to make, manage and measure those visuals. And that literally means making photos and videos at a price they can afford, managing them by making it easy to publish them, distribute them, or change them if they need to, and then measure them to find out what visuals are actually selling your product, what visuals make you increase your sales, and which ones maybe aren't creating the conversion you're looking for. And I think at the end of the day, if I was to tell you, like, why do we wake up every day here at Suna? It's because we truly believe that affordable visuals level the playing field. Stores that have great visuals sell more products, and we want every small business owner to be able to sell more of their product.
When you say it's cost effective, give the listeners an idea of what some of the costs look like if they were on your platform.
Absolutely. So an individual, one of the things our brands love is that you only have to pay per photo. So if you don't like 20 photos, you don't have to pay for them. You only have to pay for the 5 that you love. And we charge $39 for each one of our photos. We charge $93 for each one of our video clips. And then we have an amazing managed marketplace where you can hire all kinds of creative folks for interesting services to add on. So if you want to put a dog model in your photos, you can do that for as low as $99. If you want to add a behind the scenes iPhone video from an influencer, you can do that for as low as $40. And so we've created kind of this whole ecosystem of different ways to make your content better, whether you want to go from highly stylized professional content all the way down to the more user-generated iPhone style content that is so common on social media.
Wow. That sounds great. I mean, I do a podcast, but at times, we want to add different pieces of content into our videos, and it might not be a total fit because it sounds like you're more e-commerce and product focused, but for the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Shopify and e-commerce brands out there, I mean, the cost is one of the hurdles you have to get over if you want to have a brand that's going to get visibility and you're going to influence someone to buy your product or whatever you're selling. So I think that's just a great platform. What's the competition look like in your space, and how do you differentiate from others?
It's such a great question. We tend to compete with the most wild, wild west of tools that you can imagine. Everything from people using tools like Upwork to, solicit services from others, to folks hiring agencies, small digital agencies or creative agencies, all the way to people, going on Amazon and trying to buy a photo kit studio themselves and trying to do it themselves. We find that there's actually a great breadth and depth of paths that brands are taking to try and achieve, these great visual look. The thing that we always say is, there's a lot of hodgepodge solutions out there. Suna is the only solution that brings the whole thing together. So you can take that weeks of planning, the weeks of location scouting, trying to find a model, trying to find, the great solution for your business. We try to put it all in one place so you don't have to go take that disparate approach. And then we try to make it as affordable as we can to do that in one place.
Yeah. Wow. Sign me up. I love what you guys have created.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You went through Techstars. When you started with your thesis and coming out of that and where you're at today, was there any major pivots that you went through that you had to right size the model or your target?
Yes, certainly. There's been many times where, we've shifted our focus or we had to add new and renewed focus. I think about in the last year, we've had to really learn about Amazon a lot more because so many merchants are, not just wanting to sell on their Shopify store, they're wanting to also sell on Amazon. And so being able to help merchants meet the visual standards of Amazon, which are separate and apart from the visual standards of Shopify. TikTok has totally and radically changed shopping really quickly. So even just in the last 60 days, Suna has had to learn everything we can about TikTok shops and come up with solutions to help brands launch on TikTok shops, which is a great example of adapting to the market. And in the early days, one of the biggest undertakings was we really had to rethink our virtual photo shoot experience. When COVID hit, we had these physical studios where every single photo shoot was happening in a physical studio. And the virtual photo shoot was happening in those locations. Then COVID occurred and people couldn't be safe gathered. And so we had to come up with distribution mechanisms and operations and logistics to be able to make it possible for our products to move around and photo shoots to happen anywhere on the go. And so there's been many times where we've had to respond to the moment and be nimble and adapt. One of the things I think makes a great business is a business and leaders who can accept that you can't plan everything, But when something doesn't go as planned, how do you respond? Do you respond with fear or do you respond with curiosity and creativity? And at Suna, we try to always respond with curiosity and creativity.
Yeah, that's great. I want to go back to TikTok because for many, it's a platform they use, daily as consumers, as kids, as adults. What's the trend with TikTok when it comes to e-commerce, and what are they doing that others might want to know about?
Well, TikTok Shops has taken a really interesting approach where they've said, you as a store can sell direct to your customers, but you can also turn on the ability for any user on TikTok to also sell your product and do a revenue share. So if you think about how you and I are using TikTok, we see different things on our For You page and we see different things from the folks that we follow. Well, now if I'm a skincare brand, I don't just have to create content on my own account. I can actually inspire people who already love my product to sell my product through their TikTok account. And it connects to my store in a way where they get a kickback and we get a sale. And that's a totally different approach to commerce than what we've seen even in the influencer space. Previously influencers were sort of given coupon codes or given special discounts. Well, this removes that complexity and it says, don't even worry about that. Do you like this product that you're seeing in this video from this influencer? Just buy it right now directly from the merchant. That is such a powerful change in distribution for the merchants because it goes from the merchant having to constantly sell directly to consumers to a network effect, being able to distribute the product to consumers and then sell products to consumers. And so I really am bullish on TikTok's ability to compete in e-commerce. I think we have a lot of opportunity there. And we're really encouraging merchants to test it out this year. Don't wait. The holiday season is now. The new year is coming. This is the time to embrace it. You don't want to be late on getting a chance to absorb what the zeitgeist is really working with right now.
Yeah, it's incredible. Lots of innovation happening there. With AI, pervasive in almost every industry, how are you taking advantage of AI in your current platform?
AI is really embedded in a bunch of interesting ways. The first one that's really obvious for many merchants is our recommendation engine. We make recommendations all the time about what kind of photo shoot you need to create due to the fact that you might be selling a certain type of product or you might be selling a certain type of service. And so we make recommendations. Our post-production process is a machine learning process where we've learned about what are the best standards for editing images and providing our merchants with near real-time edited images, which is so powerful for when they want to move quickly and see exactly what they're going to get. And then we're building a product that's going to launch in Q1 of next year. That's a first of its kind visual analytics engine that's powered by computer vision. Computer vision is a type of artificial intelligence that actually allows a computer to see images and start to decipher what's in these images, what's special about these images. What Suna is going to do with that I think is really special is we're going to be able to connect the dots between what are the things that are in your content and what are the dynamics of that in terms of creating sales. Are there colors that create better sales for you? Are there models that create better sales for you? Is there a curation of images that creates better outcomes for your business? And that particular product will release in Q1 of next year. And it's going to be, I think, a pretty important game changer for e-commerce merchants. I often laugh at Suna about how we literally measure everything in the world. My iPhone measures how much time I spend on my phone. My email provider tells me how many emails we're sending, how many are being opened. My shipping provider tells me every detail down to exactly where a package is at the moment. But we put images on the internet and we have absolutely no idea why they're working or how they're working. Suna wants to solve that problem and wants to use artificial intelligence to do it.
I love that. Is it able to do that with images as well as video?
We're working on video right now. Video is a bigger, complex challenge to take on, but our team is up to the challenge. We hope to be able to release it later next year.
That's great. So if you look at the market, how big is the market opportunity for Suna?
Oh, it's one of those things where people sometimes laugh at me when I tell them how big I think the market is, because what I like to say is, I want you to imagine, logging onto the web tomorrow, opening a browser, and now I want you to imagine the internet without images. That's how big the opportunity is. The internet is visual. It's inherently a visual medium. And there is almost nothing we do online that doesn't involve visuals in some way, inspiring us to engage, interact, and learn about a product, a service, a news article, piece of entertainment. It is all a visual medium. And so today in our e-commerce vertical, we say that we know there's about 15 million e-commerce stores online today. We know that the average number of products they sell is about 100 SKUs, times 5 images a SKU. That is easily a $9 trillion market for us to be entering into and competing in. But we really think once we nail e-commerce, there's only more green pasture for us to approach. And so we truly believe that Suna has a long journey ahead of us, but it's an exciting journey because we just truly believe the internet is a visual place.
Yeah, that's exciting. I love to hear that. What keeps you up at night as you look at 2024?
Depends on the day, Jake. Depends on the day. No, I mean, realistically, these days, I think, some of the things I really think about are our merchants are really struggling with rising costs. Everything from shipping getting more expensive to customer acquisition costs getting more expensive to manufacturing getting more expensive. It really hurts the little guys the most. The small businesses don't have as much leverage. And, we love small businesses at Suna. They're our bread and butter. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about, how much of a pinching effect is happening for those brands and how can we be a part of helping them grow their business so that those cost increases aren't so prohibitive to their success and, causing them to not be able to invest in their business. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I'm hoping that some of the inflationary dynamics that have happened in the last year can really tamp down in 2024. But another thing I lose sleep over is, listen, the financing market and the venture market for growth stage companies like mine is a tight place to be right now. There is simply not as much free flowing capital as there used to be. And so here at Suna, we're really trying to be creative about how we think about financing the future of our business, looking around every potential opportunity, every possible corner for how we're going to grow and scale this business. And so I don't have great answers for you on that right now, but it's definitely something that I think every growth stage company is contemplating at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, we hear stories every day of, some are actually succeeding very well at raising capital. Others are, struggling a little bit. And, you've got other companies that are really innovative around it. Like, for example, Arc Technologies is a company that was on our podcast a few weeks back. And, they've had this approach where, they fund you without taking equity, and it's based on your revenues, and there's different solutions they have which are very innovative, and they basically helped save a lot of companies when Silicon Valley went under. So really,
Oh,
really
wow. Yeah.
innovative, and happy to connect you with them if it makes sense. But
Yeah. Sounds interesting. I'd love to learn more.
yeah, what advice have you gotten from another founder that's been priceless to you as a founder?
Hmm. Founders are some of my favorite people because we're optimists. We're optimists who try to invent the world that we want to live in, try to invent the world that we think is inspiring and inspired. And so I think the founder that comes to mind for me always is the first founder I ever knew was my grandfather. And my grandfather, while he was not, the founder of some dynamic tech company, he was the founder of a business. And he would always say to me when I was growing up, he called me Dolly. He'd say, Dolly, you got to know in business, it's more important who you do things with than what you're doing. And I think that has turned out to be true. The people you surround yourself with make or break an idea. And this actually is further proven in one of my favorite books, which is the book Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, who is one of the founding partners of Pixar. And he said, give a great team a great idea and they'll turn it into an amazing idea. Give a bad team a great idea and they'll turn it into crap. And I think that's a way that my grandfather was right in certainly every respect.
I love that. I got to pick that book up. Love to read that. What do you do to stay positive in the roller coaster ride of a startup?
Oh, it's such an important thing to find ways to stay positive. Probably the way that I've found to be the greatest hack to stay positive is to remind yourself every single day that you're doing the best you can. It can get if you get into that pattern of beating yourself up, oh, you're in trouble. You got to say, did I do the best I can today that I possibly did? And the second thing I do, and I'm a huge believer in this, is I'm a huge believer in quiet time. Founders, and especially when you're the CEO founder, as your company grows and scales, you're going to have a lot of people in your ear. You're going to be talking a lot during the day. You're going to be listening to people a lot during the day, or talk to customers, talk to employees, talk to investors. You're having a lot of conversations, and there can be information overload. And so one of the things that keeps me positive is actually quieting my mind and finding that time to rest my mind. Because what's always surprising to me is that once I'm thinking less and I'm just absorbing more and I'm existing more, the truth of the matter comes out, which is that I still love what I'm doing. I still believe in what I'm doing. And that really does, re-energize me in every single way.
I love that. Um, this has been a fascinating time to hear your story, because we haven't had this type of technology on the platform
Mm.
or on our program, and I think there's such a need for it. I mean, if you have an idea and you're going to sell a product online, the image is critically important, and the
Mm.
visuals and what you're trying to present will attract and potentially make customers out of your product. So, if there's a way to find more out about Suna, or to connect with you, Liz, where do they go and where do they click on the
What
internet to
can I
learn?
offer them?
Yeah, what can you offer them?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really hope if you are starting a Shopify store, if you're selling products on Amazon, even if you are getting started on Squarespace or Etsy, Suna has a solution for you. And so I would love for you to go to Suna, that's SOONA.co, and learn more about what we have to offer. And when you build your first photo shoot, I want to give you a free photo on me. So use my coupon code Liz, and you'll get one free photo from me to get your photo shoot started, so that you can just see your product come to life at the very beginning. So I'd love for folks to check it out. And if you're more of a social media person, you want to see behind the scenes, how does this whole thing actually work? Check us out at Suna Studios on TikTok and Instagram. Lots of great content there to learn more about the business.
Great. Well, Liz, thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and to all the listeners for listening. Means the world to me that you've done that today, and hopefully we'll catch up on the next episode. My name is Jake Aaron Villarreal. Until then, enjoy the holiday, take care, and we'll chat soon. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to all the entrepreneurs that have joined to make this podcast possible, and for all the listeners for listening. It means the world to me that you chose to spend your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all soon on the next episode. Take care. This show is sponsored by Match Relevant, a company that helps venture-backed startups find the best people in the market, and they do it in 3 simple steps. First, they sit down with founders to understand their story. Second, they tell their story into multiple candidate channels. And third, they schedule interviews within 48 hours. Find us at matchrelevant.com to learn more about how we do it.